Hi, I'm Cody Robert Judy, United States candidate for president in the Democratic Party in the year 2016, with an official announcement that I'd like to make that's been thought about and ironed out a little bit, needs a little bit more work on it, but I thought I would go ahead and get it out with you. And it is entitled, the official announcement, Temporary Terroristic Restrictions of Second Amendment on Islam, i.e. Muslims' religious faith, pending a 5-year purge of radical Islam in the USA, recommended to Congress by 2016 Democrat presidential candidate Cody Robert Judy. Appropriate to the circumstances Americans now face as a presidential candidate of the Democratic Party 2016 and in pursuit of the peace and tranquility of the nation, I recommend the following to Congress for consideration. In the interest of the United States of America, both West Coast, San Bernardino, California, and East Coast, Orlando, Florida, shooters purchase weapons legally. So Hillary Clinton's assertions of the wrong people getting weapons of war does not make sense without disarming all suspected radical Islamists in America, making it a felony to possess firearms or explosives for all known Muslims. The threat has reached a tipping point where the lines between radical Islam and Islam, preaching all gays should be killed, preaching an intolerance against religious plurality and of subjugation of women, is so blurred and out of assimilation of an American tradition, a public danger has been transmitted that must be dealt with politically. In the order to maintain the religion of Islam's free speech, Islam, of course, wants to maintain here in the USA, the suspension of all those members adherents of the religion of Islam as a group shall have the Second Amendment right considered a privilege revoked. Until such time as Congress should see fit to establish a test of good faith in restoring the constitutional privilege, except by those in military duty, whom the military can, under their military order, appropriate privilege on an individual basis. Service in the military should not be prohibited, or those Muslims in active duty suspended. Until the radical element is purged from within the America by Islam clerics who will have to take a stand and preach the holy hell out of radical Islam, just like gang member affiliations and known felons also suffering weapons restrictions, the radical element of the Islamic faith convicting tolerance among Islams and Muslims must suffer a penalty conviction of a sign of strength rather than weakness. Advocating penalties of death understood in the physical attribution correlated with the action in our modern era from a religious pulpit for sexual preference, identity, and intolerance for religious plurality with penalties associated of any physical cruelty advocated, as well as the subjugation of women or minorities based on race or color, has worn out the privilege of the Second Amendment in America. Let them preach what they may, but let the Second Amendment not be seen necessarily guaranteed. The U.S. Constitution and its amendments are earned with good behavior, and that trust is granted to all Americans. However, like it is granted, its elements can also be revoked by bad behavior. To preserve the safety and tranquility of the population with considerations of the multiple violations of the trust, a purge of the domestic radical Islam must be authorized by Congress and signed by a qualified commander-in-chief. With the two deadliest attacks in America happening with the known theocratic, geographical Islamic states, an official declaration of war must be called for with domestic and foreign ramifications by Congress and with harmony and the interest of the United States that must be made clear. In the interest of domestic national security and Obama's lawless disregard for border security, Obama must be called constitutionally ineligible, as he is not born in the U.S. to citizen parents. He is not a natural-born citizen. He is a violation of the office of the president. As the only candidate for president in America with a bipartisan standing recorded on official federal court record objecting to Obama's qualifications, I am the only person legally with the right to the office made so by the record. also subject to the U.S. Senate's approval, deposed to call for the act of Congress. All other candidates in 08 and 12 have forfeited that right with failure to prosecute and uphold the U.S. Constitution. I call for the U.S. Senate to open hearings to substantiate these claims and hear them in open trial in regard to the facts and place Barack Obama burdened with the defense with all powers of trial, evidence, and witnesses as the defendant. The day of using the element of America's free speech in the First Amendment to preach taking up arms in violence against minorities, LGBT, plural religion acceptance, and subjugation of women, expecting the Second Amendment won't be revoked should end for those profiled by bad behavior. Obama's rhetoric against all Americans' guns, with a suspended or restricted Second Amendment, and out of balance with the red flags of both 9/11 tragedies and the two worst mass shootings in U.S. history, in conjunction with the modern ISIS element our military is currently engaged at war with in the threat to our national safety and security, we must maintain the right to revoke the Second Amendment against groups so indulged and even associated with known terrorists or our peace and tranquility rights are unequally threatened. Equality demands protections equal to the choices made by individuals set to the standard of our laws. If Islam is a religion of peace and not war, let their associated members embrace this recommended temporary 5-year Second Amendment domestic suspension as an opportunity to arrest and relieve the public fear with a wise understanding, demanded by the terroristic events calling for this as a necessary for the public peace in the first place. Mass punishment is never an easy answer. However, it has been used as a barometer for behavior for groups or particular religions unconducive to American interest at particular times. For instance, as in the union demand upon the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Edmunds-Tucker Act prohibiting polygamy, seen as a religious tenet of marriage by that particular religion, as a prerequisite for Utah statehood still maintained by the U.S. Supreme Court. The LGBT community has forever been scarred by the horrific, shocking terrorist attack in Orlando, Florida. This is going to require a healing period of time, and there should be no objections to the balanced, proportional restrictions to Congress, especially given the boasting claims and responsibility of allegiance noticed and correlated with ISIS and these horrific memories. We all have been dealt a savage blinding of an eye with. Thank you for supporting this and forwarding it to your state congressmen and senators for official consideration. I'm Cody Robert Judy. Don't be a victim. Take a stand. Support my candidacy for president. Support today the choice Democrats have of a solid common sense defense, not a political correct weakness. Thank you.